R 2138, State of Idaho versus Jericka Evans. We are convened in the Bingham County Courts. Today is Friday, May the 28th, 2021. We're scheduled for a sentencing hearing today. There's a plea agreement. There's already been a plea taken on this. We'll go ahead and start with the prosecution side of it. We got Mr. John Dewey and Jenna Franklin representing Bingham County and the state of Idaho on this. Mr. Dewey, what would you like to do first?
Yeah, the state anticipates facilitating victim impact statements, and if the court would allow, I would ask that Rebecca Evans be able to come forward and address the court.
Okay. Rebecca, if you don't mind, come on to this podium here.
Morning.
Good morning, Rebecca. Go ahead. Start us out by stating your name and then go ahead with your statement.
Rebecca Evans. I'm here today as a mother speaking for mothers. My little girl is the same age as Jericka's children and the children that lost their father because of the inattention and speed of Jericka at that time. Those children don't have a father. I don't envy the mothers that have to help them understand. I have children at home that were very attached to their sister, and my 8-year-old wanted to commit suicide so he could be with his sister again. My other daughter deals with the pain of losing her sister and her friend every day. She feels guilty that she survived. I want you, Jericka, to know that I don't hold any malice towards you, but I also don't envy you because you will live with the pain of this for the rest of your life. Also, that it's okay to spend a few more minutes to get to your destination because it can literally save lives. And that 1 second of inattention can cause a lifetime of pain. How many lives have been impacted by a minute of inattention? My daughter will have a lifetime of things to deal with that she shouldn't, like back pain that might never heal, a foot with problems and scars, and a mountain of debt. Not to mention the emotional pain that she will deal with for the rest of her life and have to be watched for the constant threat of suicide daily. Also, the babies who will never see their dad in this lifetime, never have him at their birthdays, never kiss them and tell them everything will be all right, or be there for events like weddings. Several mothers and fathers who will never hug or see their children again until the next life. All we will have is our fading memories and the love we have in our hearts. This is the beginning of our story, and the court's decision can help make our story matter for mothers, for fathers, for sons, for daughters, for sisters, and brothers. Please make our story matter.
Rebecca, tell me, now you're the mother of, is it Ellowyn?
Ellowyn.
Ellowyn. Is that what you called her? Was Ellowyn, or did she go by Faith?
Ellowyn.
Ellowyn.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time of the accident, she was how old?
7.
7 years old. And how many other children do you have?
We have 6 total.
6. And I gather that Caitlyn was driving the car that
Correct.
Ellowyn was in?
Correct.
How old is Caitlyn?
Currently 22.
Is she still at home with you?
No.
Sorry you had to deal with this, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the state would invite Ellowyn Evans to come give his statement.
Say that name again.
Ellowyn Evans. This is Rebecca's husband and Caitlyn and Ellowyn's father.
Okay. Simran, if you just state your name there, please.
Cimarron Evans. Good
Go
morning,
ahead,
Your Honor.
sir, when you're ready.
It's hard for me to stand up here today. The last couple of days, emotions have been running wild in my mind, and didn't sleep very well last night. Thinking about what I might say or convey. As a dad, you would never want this to happen to any of your children. As a father of 6, you're there to protect and to make sure your kids are safe, that they come home every night, and you tell them that you love them. The night before the accident, I got to spend about 20 minutes of screen time through Facebook, talking to my baby girl, and to Jean and my daughter Caitlyn, and telling them how much I love them.
Was Ellowyn your youngest daughter?
Yes, sir.
She's your baby?
Yes, she was. She's my baby girl.
Thank you.
And I won't be able to do many things with her that I've done with my oldest daughter. Walk her down the aisle and take her on long trips, have s'mores camping, and go through all these wonderful milestones that a child goes through with their family. That won't happen with her. She was a flashlight that lit up the night for everyone else to see. She walks in the room, there's a glow about her, and everyone, for whatever reason, instantly became happy. Even on the playground at school, when she notices someone that's not feeling well or suffering or fell down, she would instantly run over and pick them up and lift them up and see if they're okay. All of her teachers and even the janitor loved Ellowyn because she'd run up to them and give them hugs as if they were family. She was so innocent, and that innocence is gone.
Was she in the first grade when she died?
Yes, sir, she was.
Second.
She was second? She was, I guess, second grade. And so, she'd always take care of her brothers, too. She'd make sure they got on the bus. She'd make sure that they were, got to their classes when they came off the bus in the morning for school. Just wonderful things that she did. Let me tell you the time before the accident, about 2 months before. My little girl and I, we set a fence in Pocatello, and it was 107 degrees that day. And my little girl with me, she moved 1,200 pounds of gravel with me. She didn't stop, she didn't quit. She spent 7 hours in 107 degrees heat. And she was happy working alongside me. She worked hard, and she was special. So special, in fact, that she had a memory that I couldn't even fathom. We were working on my international pickup truck, and I asked for a wrench, and I felt her little paw. And I asked for a 12mm box wrench. She brought it to me. I thought it was kind of weird, so I asked for a 9/16 ratcheting wrench. She brought that to me too. Then I asked for something difficult, a reverse Torx 3/8 drive, 10mm. She brought that to me as well. I asked her how she did it, how she knew. She's like, Dad, I went to your shop, I memorized all of your tools. And she took me around the shop and showed me where everything's at and named it all correctly. She had virtually near perfect photographic memory. It's very special. It's hard for me, and I miss her every day. And my boys and my daughters miss her as well. My 9-year-old now, Talon, he cries whenever we talk about her because she's so special to him. It's hard for him. Jericka, I don't hate you at all. I forgive you for what you did. I hope you understand that even though we make mistakes, we have to be accountable for it. We have to take responsibility for our actions. A lot of people in this world refuses to take responsibility for their actions that they do. And I don't envy your position. And I don't envy our position as well, because we all have to live with this now. I wish things were different, but I can't rewind time. I wish I could. I wish I could tell my daughter to drive a different direction, but I can't. It's going to take time for us to heal. We'll never fully heal. There'll always be a hole in our hearts. So, that's all I have to say, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dewey?
For the state would invite Caitlyn Evans. Come here first.
No, sorry. Caitlyn, would you start us out by stating your name, please?
Caitlyn Evans.
Go ahead, Caitlyn.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to apologize in advance if I get emotional. Due to this accident, I have a lot of guilt and PTSD, and I also have a traumatic brain injury. So I am no longer working full-time due to this and the pain that I have to deal with. Waking up, I can't walk for about 20 minutes after I wake up. I have 4 plates, 18 screws, and a re-sewed together ankle ligament from this accident. I have a large scar on the back of my head from a laceration, and lots of scars all over my body now from glass or whatever else may have hit me. I have troubles sleeping at night. I am taking a whole plethora of medications to try and combat the insomnia and the night terrors and the depression. And my therapist is pushing me to apply for Social Security income because I can't focus at work. I have at least 3 mental breakdowns a day, and I shouldn't have to feel guilty for something that wasn't my fault, but I do. And I feel like I failed as a protector to my baby sister, to Jean's children, because I was driving him home from work. And I don't envy the pain that other people have to go through, but I also am glad that they didn't have to see that. They didn't have to see him bleeding to death. They didn't have to see her being on the side of the road being given CPR. Your Honor, they didn't even know she was in the car, is how bad it was, until I had said something, and luckily I was conscious at the time, because had I not been, they wouldn't have known. And I wasn't sure whose blood I was covered in, and I had to sit there while Jean died in my lap, and being covered in that blood. Your Honor, I haven't eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in 2 years because it reminds me of the stickiness that I felt, and I am working very hard to get over that, and I don't know if I will ever be able to. And I can't drive through Shelley without having a panic attack. I have a hard time driving with people behind me. I hadn't even made a payment on my car. It was my first car from a dealership. I didn't even get to make a payment on it. And my sister was 7 years old. And her life hadn't even begun. Jean was 24. He wasn't even halfway through his life. And I do, in fact, feel guilty that I survived that. But I have to live with constant pain, mental, emotional, just trauma in general. And I just hope that the court can take this into account when making their decision. Thank you, Your Honor.
Hold on just a minute. I need to ask you a couple of things. First of all, I'm really sorry you're having to endure this. Like your dad said, I guess we just all have to march forward. You can't change the past. I noticed in looking through the file that there was a request for $107,000 of restitution.
That's my medical debt, sir.
Have you been able to get any insurance money to pay that down?
My car insurance covered what they could, and then it got maxed out, and I still had more. My surgery alone for my foot was $85,000. And about $6,000 of that is my lost wages in that request.
So how much is your insurance paying?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know that it was a couple thousand. Like, I think I had coverage for $150,000.
So do you still have medical bills that are owed, or were you able to
I
pay
do.
those with the insurance money?
I still have medical insurance, bills that are owed. My insurance covered a lot of my appointments, but it didn't cover everything.
So it looks like you had medical bills and lost wages of about $107,000. And I guess in my mind, what I want to compare to that is how much insurance money your insurance company paid in Jericka's.
To my knowledge, her company didn't pay anything. It was my company that covered it. I have records, extensive records of bills with my insurance company's name on it.
Where do you work at?
I have Grand Teton Human Services. I'm a caregiver. I'm only working maybe 16 hours a week now because I just can't focus, and my boss doesn't want me working full time at this time.
Well, hang in there, Caitlyn. Thank you for expressing your feelings today. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mayor, I would ask at this point, does the court have any participants via Zoom?
We did not. We didn't know that anybody wanted to participate by Zoom, so we did not set up a Zoom hearing for this.
Okay. I do have a statement from Ellowyn Hurrle, Jean Hurrle's mother, that is invited to submit that to the court for your review.
Want to just read it into the record?
It's lengthy, but I'll do whatever the court would ask.
So this statement is from John's mother.
Correct.
mother of John's children here?
Ashley Hurrle plans on making a statement after the court's review of this statement. Taylor is also present, but she doesn't plan on making a statement. The state would invite Ashley Hurrle to come first.
Ashley, if you start us out by stating your name, please.
Yes, it's Ashley Hurrle. A few months ago, I stood in front of you and expressed my feelings on how my life was impacted by Jericka Evans killing my husband in a vehicular accident on the day of October 5th, 2019. Today I sit in front of you and remind you of some of the things I expressed, but also continue to have impacted in my life months after speaking to you in this courtroom. First and foremost, I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak one more time. I can't thank you enough for letting me have one last message to say in front of you and in front of Jericka in this courtroom for the justice of my husband, Jean Hurrle, and the justice for our entire family that was impacted by that day. Jericka's actions not only have affected my life dramatically, but have also affected multiple people. Our child, Brooklyn, is now an only child. She has no siblings around to play with her. It's been over 365 days since we have seen Jean's other two children, who lived with us for our daughter's entire life until the accident. She now has no sibling to understand her and what she is going through emotionally. She will forever be affected by not only the loss of her father by the age of 4 years old, but she also has lost two siblings that are no longer in her life. I too have been affected by this. I've been in my stepchildren's life since Alex's first birthday and Nicole's second. I had to miss my first set of birthdays within the last year for both of them, and I will be missing all of the others in the future. I'm used to having a car full of 3 children laughing and having a good day after school to a car ride with just our daughter, making sure she had a good day at school and making sure she was okay for the day. I went from bathing 3 children, getting 3 children up and ready in the morning, 3 doctor or dentist appointments, and 3 first days of schools. This has been extremely difficult for me. I have to force myself out of bed every day just to put a smile on my face so our daughter knows everything will be okay. From the last time we spoke, I was let go from my job that I had full-time for years. The owner of the company expressed that I was bringing my emotions to work and I didn't have my head in the right places and that I was just too sad. Instead of working with me, they let me go. I had insurance, I had a full-time job, I had a steady income for me and my daughter, and because of the last year, I lost that great opportunity. I was unemployed since because I can't seem to find the motivation to find something as great to help me and my daughter in the future. I can't only think about myself, and I have to make sure she is above me. I have struggled the last couple of months with making my car payments, insurance payments, phone payments, and my bills. I am not stable mentally or emotionally, and I feel like I'm drowning. The last year, I paid for 3 storage units that Jean and I shared together. I was finally able to go through one and pack away things and discard things, but now I'm stuck on the last 2. I can't get myself to go through his clothes or his belongings. I tried to make a goal to have one more cleaned out, but I haven't gone back since the beginning of October because I ran into a box of his old things. Some of his baby pictures, clothes with tags still on them because he still planned to wear them, and things from the children growing out of. I sat in the storage unit for 2 hours crying uncontrollably and had to have someone come pick me up because I couldn't move. These are the things that I'll forever have to deal with. Jean is everywhere. I see him and my daughter, and it's hard to look at her without being emotional. This last year, as you may know, we still have not received any kind of insurance payout. So we made it a goal to have his headstone put out by his year mark, and over the summer, my family put together fundraisers to raise the money to help us. I can't tell you how many pumpkin rolls, banana breads, and cookies my mom slaved over the kitchen working on. I can't tell you how many strangers in the public helped with our fundraiser just to make sure that he had a nice headstone. We finally reached our goal, and on October 3rd, his headstone and bench were placed, and it is so beautiful. These are the things I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. I had to reach out to complete strangers to help make my husband's bench a reality. Not only did we have to figure out the headstone on our own, I get calls weekly wanting things paid for him. I haven't been able to pay any money to the funeral home, and they're about to send me to collections. Some of his old medical bills are now placed in my name, and I'm drowning in all the debt with no help. I had to do a med reevaluation recently because I've been bullied on social media. Some things said on social media have made me question my worth and, quite honestly, my life. I've lost friendships, and I've lost my relationship with my in-laws due to things said about my husband throughout social media. And it's been really hard because he can't sit here and defend the truth. The doctor was concerned for my well-being and had to give me stronger doses of both my anxiety and depression to make sure I was stable. I sit in my cars at nights until 3 in the morning crying and listening to all the music that reminds me of my last 7 years with Jean. And I'm having a very difficult time accepting that he's gone, not only for my sake, but for my daughter's. I know that he's never coming back, and I know that. But when will Jericka feel responsible for ruining a person's whole life, future, and other people's mental state? My life didn't end that day of the accident, but my mentality ended that day. I can't think for myself. I can't be myself. I took up a strong addiction to drinking alcohol to numb the pain I feel in my heart. I'm not the same person I was. I know that alone with my daughter, I will never be able to succeed in life without the help of my wonderful parents. I can't afford housing on my own. I can't afford my bills. I can't make more than a certain amount of money a month, or I lose my Social Security benefits. I can't find a good job that only wants someone to work for a few days or a few hours a week. So I'm torn between working full-time and losing my benefit, which helps me and my daughter, or not working and just drowning. I can't relate to any of my friends. No one has had to become a widow at 23 years old. I've had a hard time keeping friendships together because I'm falling apart. Even though time's passed and life moves on, there's never a dull moment in my day or my thoughts are not with him, missing him, feeling lost without him, and wishing to have another minute with him just to tell him I love him. Never again will I hear the sound of his boots walking through the door after a long day of work, reassuring the family he was home safely. On that tragic day, we lost our strength and our calm in our lives. We lost a man with a big heart full of life and joy. Everything was lost in the day he was killed. His life so tragically taken away from us for no reason. It'll always leave us with a void that will never be filled. In a year, our daughter has grown older. I see so much of Jean in her every day, and it brings me so much joy yet sadness. He'll never get to see the impact he still brings to her life. No more little moments, times of connection, comfort, intimacy, and personal milestones. He was her hero. He made everyone laugh. He never cared what people thought. He would do anything possible to make you smile. He was strong, patient, and a smart man. Through him, the children learned to stand tall, but with standing tall means they're going to have to do a lot of things on their own now. He has and will miss out on so much of their life. How is it that one day he's here and one day he is gone forever? The children might have forgotten what his laugh sounded like, and they're soon going to forget what his smile looked like, his voice, and what he smelled like. Me and Brooklyn will look at videos and feel empty, like our world didn't crumble in front of our eyes. The day I was told my husband was killed was the day my life stood still. His life ended due to Jericka Evans' deplorable behavior. His last moments in life were filled with terror and fear, and he didn't have me or his children by his side to make sure he knew he was loved and that everything would be okay. Our handsome, intelligent, hardworking dad and husband were taken from us in a split second in time due to someone else's actions. In regards to sentencing, I firmly believe Jericka should receive full punishment for taking an irreplaceable life. On behalf of myself and everyone else that was impacted by my husband's passing, we ask and want justice for him. It has been extremely difficult knowing that Jericka can enjoy life moving forward while we all sit here with extreme heartache and pain. Jean was 24 years old and he still had his whole life ahead of him. She was distracted, so distracted that she couldn't stop, and that she destroyed several families' lives. I don't believe her sentencing will ever be fair enough. I think the sentence will give others the same impression that if they did this, they wouldn't get in a reasonable amount of trouble. My life will never be the same, my daughter's life will never be the same, his children's life will never be the same, and his families will not either. This is a permanent damage that will forever be in our hearts. Our daughter doesn't laugh the same. She's not the same little girl she was a year ago before Daddy was taken from her. She had to grow up faster than most 4-year-olds because she had the hardest reality in life that her daddy was no longer coming home. Your Honor, my husband went to work on the morning of October 5th, not realizing he would not be coming home. To a life he cherished and to a life he deserved to live. Jean took his last breath on the side of the highway, and he was killed by Jericka Evans' reckless driving and her reckless decision to drive at such a high speed, ultimately killing my husband. I respectfully ask you to take into consideration in her sentencing what I have said and pray again that no one experiences the pain we all experience to this day.
Thank you, Ashley. Let me ask you a couple questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
So, is Brooklyn 4 now?
No, she's gonna be 6 in a couple weeks.
How old is Alex?
Alec, he's 8, or he'll be 8.
How about Nicole?
She'll be 11 this year.
She's 10.
She'll be 11 this year.
She'll be 10 in October.
So, I gather from what you said that you and Sean had custody of all 3 kids, and then after he died, the 2 kids, did they go back with their mother?
So, he had a shared custody with Taylor, and she had every other weekend and a week a month, and then we had them.
Oh, shared custody.
Yep.
All right. And do you receive Social Security death benefits for Brooklyn?
Yes.
How much does Brooklyn receive a month?
300.
300 even?
Yep. All of the kids receive that.
They all get 300 a month?
Yeah. So Taylor gets the 300 for both of the kids, and then his other child, she gets 300, and Brooklyn gets 300.
How much do you receive a month?
300.
You get 300?
They split it all between everyone evenly. I get like the widow one.
So you get 300, Brooklyn gets 300, Taylor gets 300?
Taylor gets 600 too, because she has the 2 kids.
Yes. You haven't received any kind of insurance settlement?
No, they said that Jericka had filed for bankruptcy, and so we have to go through, I don't even know. I talked to the attorney, Mr. Kelly, and he said that there wasn't any new information.
When you say the attorney, have you hired an attorney to help you with that?
No.
You know, Caitlyn Evans has hired an attorney?
I know that they have an attorney, I just don't know his name.
You made your presentation there today. You're evidently a good writer and a good speaker. For some reason, I was thinking that woman would make a great school teacher.
I'm actually a preschool teacher right now, so.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Ashley, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes the victim impact portion of the state's presentation.
Mr. Dewey, any recommendations you'd like to make to the court?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, first and foremost, I'd like to make a few comments about these families that you've heard from today. I met with them and we certainly discussed the case and different outcomes, including this outcome that's before the court today. And I want to just impress upon the court that these folks have been very reasonable and forgiving. That there wasn't a sense of spitefulness, just that there was hurt on their behalf, that they were hurt by what's happened, and that's my involvement in the case has been well over a year after this incident occurred. There was that hurt, I think, is exacerbated by the inadequacy of our criminal justice system to deal with this precise situation, with the profound loss that they've had, and the remedies compared to the remedies that the court has available to try to serve the goals of criminal sentencing and to a certain extent make them whole. This case is about speed and inattention, and just going through some factual information for the court. There was a collision on Highway 91 near Howard Equipment, just outside Shelley. There was a driver named Michael Chaffin who slowed to a safe stop to yield to make a left turn into the business off of Highway 91. Another driver named Taylor France slowed to a safe distance to make a stop behind that vehicle. Caitlyn Evans, who you heard from today, slowed to make a safe stop, or was nearing that safe stop behind Mr. France's vehicle. Ms. Evans was driving a Nissan Sentra. And then very shortly after that, Ms. Jericka Evans, who was driving a one-ton Ford pickup, did not slow to a stop. According to the readings of the black box and calculations made by the accident reconstruction expert, she was going up approximately 70 miles per hour 5 seconds before the impact, and approximately 68 miles per hour at impact with Caitlyn's car, slamming into the back of that car.
Is the speed limit there 45?
In that location, it's 55.
55.
In Ms. Evans' car was Jean Hurrle, a 24-year-old man who was killed. In the back seat was Ellowyn Evans, a 7-year-old girl who was killed. And Caitlyn Evans suffered substantial injuries that you've heard about today. The circumstances of this collision were that it occurred at broad daylight, approximately 12:45. Clear, bright conditions. It was not a situation where there was snow or ice causing any sort of, or contributing to the issue. In interview with Ms. Jericka Evans, she believed that she was changing the radio. Her estimate of her speed was significantly less than what the black box showed. So we're talking about a situation with speed and inattention. And the speed coupled with that inattention, however brief, led to a situation where Ms. Evans' conduct took the lives of two innocent individuals. Ms. Evans does have a prior history of driving offenses, and some of these are significantly in the past, but I think still relevant for the court's determinations today. In 2005, an excessive speed, so over 16 miles per hour over the limit in Bonneville County. Again in 2006, again over 16 miles per hour over the speed limit in Teton County, and again in 2006, over 16 miles per hour over the speed limit in Bingham County. 2007 DUI, and then in 2013 a speeding ticket, and then in 2017 another excessive speeding ticket of speed in excess of 16 miles per hour over the limit. We have a history, and some of it remote, of Ms. Evans speeding, that she would speed significantly from time to time at the very least. Those facts are relevant because of the speed involved in this offense, that it represents to a certain extent a continued pattern of behavior. In mitigation, this defendant pled guilty, and then she reaffirmed that plea before the court later on. And I think that a fact that's difficult to deal with in the criminal justice system is the fact that this was an unintentional act on her part. She didn't mean to do this. She certainly didn't consciously appreciate the risk or the impact that her conduct would have. It was an unintentional act. It was inattention. It was speeding. The outcome is incredibly unfortunate. And I think that certainly we can think of the possibility of someone going too fast and messing with the radio or messing with their phone or dealing with kids in the back seat and think that this is something that to a certain extent many of us have engaged in over our lifetimes, at least some portions of that type of behavior. Maybe it's a fairly common occurrence, but that's precisely why prosecuting this offense and this court's sentence are important, because I think that this type of behavior may be widespread, and it's something that we need to do something about to try to keep this from happening, because the impacts can be so great. The primary goal I would suggest to the court's sentencing today is community deterrence, so that we can avoid these types of outcomes in the future, and deterrence of this specific individual. We've reached a plea agreement in the matter, and I would make recommendations consistent with this plea agreement. There be concurrent suspended jail sentences, that there be 4 years of probation, that it's sufficient that probation be informal, with the court monitoring her compliance with some special terms, that she do community service, defensive driving course, and most importantly, that she comply with all laws, including infractions, as a term and condition of probation, and the violation of which would cause her to be in peril of serving all of her jail time. So we would recommend that the court's sentence reflect that. We have had discussions regarding jail. In speaking to the court, it's understood that the court will likely impose jail time, and we would just not oppose work release on any jail days imposed by the court or other accommodations, because we understand that's the likely outcome. With regard to restitution, the court's asked questions with regard to that. Restitution is an unresolved issue at this point, so there are potentially 3 insurance policies at play, and 2 of them are unresolved. One of which was a subject of a mediated settlement agreement, but that agreement didn't go through. And there's I believe another insurance policy that has not gone through. The state's concerned about those issues, and that the church should play its part, and certainly be part of the calculation when the court orders restitution, so that the restitution goes to the correct party, the party with the out-of-pocket losses. So we are asking for the court to give us additional time to file for restitution. The stipulation in the plea agreement is for 30 days to file for restitution. I would suggest that an additional 30 days would be appropriate for us to get those figures. we can provide the court with some of the figures that are beyond dispute, the actual current out-of-pocket expenses at this point, and deal with other expenses that are due, but that might be subject to insurance payouts at a later date. With regard to driver's license suspension, I think that that's appropriate. I think that's part of the deterrence of this individual and the deterrence of the community. And I would also, with regard to child support, I would just indicate to the court that based on my review of the effective guidelines based on Mr. Hurrle's impact, his income before he died, that the Social Security payouts it would exceed the child support guidelines. And with that, I would just open myself to any questions from the board.
The 3 insurance policies, do you know the value of those, if you held those for the insured by?
Ms. Jericka Evans has an insurance policy, and that's the one that was subject to the mediation and the mediated agreement. I don't have those figures in front of me.
You don't know what the policy limit is on that?
I don't have that, and counsel for defense would probably be able to give the court better information on that.
You mentioned 2 other policies. What are the other 2 policies?
The other policy that I'm aware of is a policy, perhaps an uninsured motorist policy that the Evanses.
Caitlyn has.
Yeah,
Do you know if it's uninsured or if it's underinsured?
I believe it's both, but if they may be able to answer. There's a nod for that's nodding your head. So those insurance policies have not yet paid out.
And then the third one.
The third one, I believe, is Ashley's, and Ashley's saying that your insurance paid some of your things. No? I guess there's only 2. I apologize.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me just ask you one thing here. As I sit and listen to this, I'm kind of balancing in my mind jail time compared to leaving her out so that she can work and be in a position to maybe pay restitution and try to make her victims whole somehow, and balancing that in my mind. The other thing that I'm thinking about is the 200 hours of community service. 200 hours of community service is 200 hours she could be working and earning money to pay restitution to victims. Thought that through. Do you have any opinion on that that you'd like to express?
Well, Your Honor, I think both things are important. With regard to rehabilitating her and having her, maybe share her story with the community and provide for that benefit to the community, I think that that's important. So we just ask the court balance those 2.
Thank you, Mr. Dewey.
Thank you.
Mr. Olson, on behalf of the defendant, anything you'd like to tell the court?
Your Honor, it's tough to make recommendations in a case like this. It's just a tragedy, as has been stated by all these folks. She's driving down the road, Miss Evans is driving down the road, following the traffic ahead of her, reaches down to check the radio, looks down. As she looks up, the cars are braking ahead of her. And she hits her brakes, but that one single moment of inattention by looking down caused her not to be able to see the cars stopping in front of her. And she was just following the traffic. When she was asked how fast she was going, she told the officer she thought she was doing around 50. They just got up from the 45 into the 55. She was doing the same speed as the car ahead of her. One of the reasons we were fighting this case, Your Honor, was because the officer's estimation of the speed, we believe, is very different than what it actually was. And so that was an inflammatory amount the state kept saying, and that's how they were going to try to convict her, but we don't believe that was accurate based on a lot of other things. But be that as it may, Jericka does understand that it was her fault. This accident was her fault. It was nobody else's. She was the one falling, she's the one that needed to pay attention. And she pled guilty to take that responsibility on her, even though we could have went to trial, and at trial she may have been acquitted. And that's up to the jury. But there were a lot of factual issues that would have been brought up at a jury trial, which may have made changes in whether or not she was convicted of this criminal offense. As the state said, and Evans said, the criminal system is wholly ineffective for solving these types of cases. The court has crimes as well, and always a crime against the state. People get injured, and if they're injured, then they're entitled to restitution. That's the age-old law. Ms. Evans did have insurance, Your Honor. She had the $100,000 policy. The court did ask about that. There was a mediation agreement that was entered into with Judge Myers, I believe, mediated it. All the parties signed off on that. There were some hang-ups, and Ms. Evans filed bankruptcy, and it's my understanding that that is currently in front of the bankruptcy court to approve that settlement agreement. So that's being resolved, taken care of. They tendered that money, I guess, as soon as they do that, and I don't know if the court's seen any minor compromises, but they have to do the minor compromises for the minors that are involved in that settlement. And then those monies will be paid out, as my understanding.
Do you have any idea about the uninsured or underinsured insurance of the Evans victim family?
I don't have that information, Your Honor. It's my understanding, based upon what's said today, that there are those other two policies for the Evans had an uninsured, underinsured. I don't know the amounts of that. And Ms. Hurrle should also, it's my understanding, she said she had some insurance that paid on her medical, so there must be those other two policies. But I don't know any details of that, Your Honor. And we have no problem with the state having it 30 days from today to try to sort out if there's any additional restitution that would need to be paid. But we can deal with that another day, Your Honor. Your Honor, part of the reason behind the plea agreement and the 200 hours that you mentioned was because the state was not recommending any jail time. And so the 200 hours was kind of in lieu of that jail time, that she could be, instead of sitting in jail doing nothing, that she could be paying that time back to the community and doing, community service. Jail time is, frankly, Your Honor, is straight punishment, but it doesn't really help the community. It's more of a drain on the community, a cost to the community, to the taxpayers. Jail is for people that, in my opinion, are not able to be in the community itself. And so that was part of the plea agreement, to she would do that community service in lieu of jail. The court is inclined to give her jail time. She is working. She's been consistently working, Your Honor. She's a hard worker. She has two children, 8 and 12, that she has primary custody of. Their father, her ex-husband, gets those children every other weekend from Friday evening to Sunday evening. And that's pursuant to a protection order that Judge Colson entered, which is on for another year. So he has the children this weekend, and then he would get them every other weekend. So as she is the single parent raising those children, if the court is inclined to do any jail time, we'd ask the court to take that into consideration and allow her to do that through a term of the probation every other weekend, so that at least she can continue to raise those children and care for those, and it doesn't interfere with her employment. There's no need to compound the tragedy that's occurred and compound that tragedy upon other innocent parties. As to her record, Your Honor, this is her first criminal offense, her only criminal offense. She does have a few infractions, speeding tickets. There passed some when she was a juvenile. I know the state said that maybe it's a pattern for her, but they're not often. I know a lot of other people who get more often speeding tickets. It doesn't make them a criminal. I think according to the records the state sent me, her one speeding ticket was in 2013. And her other one was in 2016. So I've got those 2 speeding tickets, and I've got a seatbelt ticket and a window tint violation from 2013. So that speeding ticket one was, well, that's almost 10 years ago. The other one's 5. I don't think that's very frequent. She has not got a single ticket since this incident, Your Honor, to her credit. She does not intend on getting any additional tickets. Because of this, she is extremely vigilant in her driving behavior. I know this has affected her significantly. She has felt terrible about the situation. We've talked about it. She's cried, not for her, but for what happened. I know she's got a statement that she's made that she wants to talk to these folks, to the court. You'll see and hear her heartfelt apology. As Mr. Evans said, we all wish that this clock could be turned back, that things could be changed, that something else could have happened. 1 second, one delay, a moment in time is all it takes for these things to either occur or not occur. There's nothing worse than the loss of a child. I feel for these folks. I understand their pain, and it never goes away. And Miss Evans has to live with that the rest of her life. So, Your Honor, ask the court to follow on with the plea agreement, to place her on 4 years of informal probation, have her do the community service in lieu of the jail time, complete the defensive driving course, obviously comply with all the laws. If she gets any speeding tickets or any violations within that period of time, the court could violate her. Suspend the jail time, along with the agreement not to impose any upfront jail. And again, we'll deal with restitution later. If the court wants her to go speak to high school kids, to driver's ed kids about slight inattention, how that can affect people for the rest of their lives, maybe that's the best thing to pay back the community and try to help people understand that one little moment of inattention can cause such tragedy. Maybe that's better for everybody involved. Unless you have questions for me, Your Honor.
Would you escort Jericka up to the podium so that I can see her, so that she can read her statement? If you just stand there next to her, please. Jericka, if you'd start us out by stating your name, please.
Jericka Evans.
Go ahead, Jericka.
When we got together for statements, I was unaware that I would be able to say anything. And I would like to say something now. Words cannot explain or express how deeply sorry I am that my actions have taken your loved ones from your life. I cannot begin to imagine the pain and loss that you have experienced and continue to experience. It is and will always be an unspeakable and unimaginable loss. I know there are no words that can ever heal this pain. I want you to know that I think of your loved ones, Ellowyn and Jean, every day. It is my first thought when I wake up and the last thought when I go to sleep. I am haunted by the events of that day. I want you to know that I will rightfully carry this burden the rest of my life. When I'm with my children, I think of Ellowyn and how you no longer have the simple pleasure of watching her play and grow. I think about how losing one of my children would have left an emptiness that time cannot heal. When I'm with my father, I think of Jean and how the loss of my father at a young age would have broken my heart and changed my life forever. Throughout my life, I have tried to follow the rules. I have tried to plan my life in a way that keeps myself and others safe. I would never have imagined that my life and the lives of others would be defined by one tragic moment of my inattention. While my grief cannot be compared to your grief, I want you to know that my life is forever changed. And there will never be a day where I will not be haunted by my actions and your loss. If I could turn back time, I would have never diverted my eyes from the road to adjust my radio. Never would I imagine that the simple act of adjusting radio would lead to such tragedy. From the depths of my heart, I am truly sorry that my inattentiveness caused so much pain and suffering to the family and friends involved in this accident.
Thank you, Jericka, and I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Well, as I read the letter from Jean's mother, she wanted the maximum sentence imposed. She'd like to see you in jail for a year and 90 days. That would be the maximum. I think that's probably what she would like to see. I suppose Ashley would think that that might help. Ashley Hurrle, the wife. And we could put you in jail for a year and 90 days, but it's not going to change anything. You're not the kind of person that would deter you. Some people that continually get DUIs, we put them in jail so that they'll quit driving for whatever amount of time they're in jail. So even though that's one option and one thing that I've considered, there's probably some other things that we can do. As your attorney correctly pointed out, I suppose if you went to jail for a year and 90 days, that would be big problems with your kids and the custody of that. It would be hard for your kids, but they'd have to adjust and go through. I kind of thought those things through, so realized they had that. So anyhow, we'll try to do something here that's reasonably fair to you. There's nothing here that we can do that's reasonably fair to Ellowyn or Jean. Unfortunately, we can't do anything. Same thing with Caitlyn. I feel really sorry for Caitlyn and all the problems she's dealing with, and Ashley and those 3 kids. I don't think there's much we can do here to fix that. We can't do much to help. All right, so the sentence will be, there'll be 365 days in jail on count 1 on the vehicular manslaughter. There will be 90 days in jail on the inattentive driving. Those will run consecutive. I know the plea agreement recommendation was concurrent, but I'm going to run those consecutive. Hopefully we won't have to use all of those days. The court will order that you pay restitution. And on the restitution, I'm going to leave that open for 4 years. And the reason that I'm leaving it open for 4 years is with the bankruptcy and the different things going on, it'll take a while for this to all play out. And I want to be able to look at that. And one of the reasons that I'm not going to put you in jail for a year and 90 days is that if there is some restitution that needs to be paid and your bankruptcy doesn't discharge that, you'll need to be in a position to try to make some payments to help on that. You'll be on a court probation for 4 years. On going to order that you do 200 hours of community service. I'll come back to that in a minute. Order that you take the defensive driving course. The fine on count 1 is $750. The fine on count 2 is $200. The court costs on each of those is $157.50. On that 200 hours of community service, I'm going to give you 2 options. And it'll be obvious to you which one I want you to follow. Option number 1 is you can do your 200 hours working at the transfer station out in Orland or the Rattlesnake Station up in the Firth area. Are you from Shelley area?
Idaho Falls.
Idaho Falls. That would be the closer one. Rattlesnake up there, they've got one in Aberdeen, and you could do it at any of those transfer stations. You can do your 200 hours there if you wish. The second option that I'm going to give you has been mentioned by both of the attorneys, and I had thought of this previously, so the attorneys are thinking the same way. That is that you work on and develop some kind of a presentation that you can make. Well, when you go to your defensive driving class, you'll see how that class goes, and they may have somebody like you show up and come in and talk to the people that are in that class. So a defensive driving class would be a good place for you to make your presentation. You could make that presentation to driver's ed classes, kids that are 14 or 15 years old. It makes an impact on them if they see a live person come in and say, this is what happens or can happen if you're not careful when you operate a motor vehicle. There might even be high school classes that you do just go and talk to them to get your 200 hours. And in my mind, I'm visualizing that most of the people you'll be talking to will be younger people. It'd be good for you to get a copy of that video that was taken by Howard Equipment and showed it. Have that with you. Probably for you to have a picture of Jean Hurrle and a picture of Ellowyn. You'd have to get permission from their families, but maybe a picture to show these people and say, this is what can happen when we speed and when we drive in town. And I've been there and my life hasn't been the same since that day. I'm hoping and that I'm thinking that in 200 hours you'd have the opportunity to influence a lot of people to maybe save somebody else the grief that you and these folks are dealing with. So I hope that you'll choose to go that route. Now, as far as and you'll be on court probation, you won't have a probation officer. If you have a probation officer, that costs $60 a month. And usually they're checking you to make sure that you're not using illegal drugs or drinking, and I haven't heard any evidence that that's a problem in your situation. So it feels to me like you don't need a probation officer, but you will be under court supervision. And as you'll see here, there's a way that I'm going to track and follow that. On the jail time, I'm going to have you go to jail today, and you'll get out Tuesday morning at 7:30. So Tuesday morning, I think that's June the 1st, the idea being so that you can get back to work. And then for the next 4 years, I'm going to have you go to jail on October the 4th at 7:30 in the morning, and you'll get out October the 6th, that's 48 hours, at 7:30 in the morning. And then when you get out of jail on October the 6th, and this year I think that falls on a Wednesday, I want you to stick around and come into the courtroom, and by then I want you to have 50 hours of community service done. And I would like to see, hopefully you'll show up and say, Judge, here's the presentation that I developed, can I give it to you? I would take 15 or 20 minutes, however long it takes for you to give that presentation to me so that I can watch it. Hopefully there'll be somebody else in the courtroom to see it. And then the next year, the same thing. We'll have you go October 4th to October 6th. And we'll do that for the next 4 years. When you get out of jail, I'll review it and make sure that you've got 50 hours of community service done each year, so that over 4 years you'll get your time. Now the court has considered the child support issue. Our statute talks about child support. Quite frankly, your mistake, your negligence has created a situation where all of the rest of us that are taxpayers are going to have to pay the child support for those 3 kids through our Social Security. if for some reason there was no Social Security, the Idaho Code and the legislature anticipated that you should be paying the child support for those 3 kids. Unfortunately for you, I guess the rest of us are going to pay for that through Social Security. So I'm not going to try to order you to pay child support at this time. Now, Carla, in the order there, I want you to put child support and leave that issue open so that if something changes, if the federal government goes bankrupt in the next 4 years, maybe we'll come back and revisit that issue. So I'm going to reserve that issue. On your driver's license, I'm going to suspend your driver's license for 5 years. The statute doesn't give a specific time. It says it's in the discretion of the judge. So I'm going to suspend your license for 5 years, but I'm not going to send that suspension in right now. I'll hang on to that, and then if there's any probation violation, then we can go ahead and send that in anytime during the 4 years as a sanction if you have problems or don't do the community service or some of these other things we've talked about. Carla, if you need to redo that, we can go more, but we can't. Fit that in there. I know that's quite a bit on the small. Yeah, we'll suspend it all, but there'll be the jail time rest of these calls. Like after this weekend, she'll be down to
What time did you leave?
right now.
First
7:30 in the morning.
Could she be released at 7 in the morning? She's supposed to be working Idaho Falls by 8.
7 is fine.
Thank you.
7 a.m. What do you think? Can we do that in a separate order? Or just an exhibit A? Yes. Jericka, we're going to put you on our payment plan, $100 a month, on or before the second Thursdays. First $100 will be due on or before June 10th. Carlos, you want to get us a jailer to help us here?
I can take her to custody and get them compensated.
Or we can walk downstairs if you want to.
Yeah, you can stay with us.
Your Honor, can I address one additional issue?
Yes, sir.
So in the plea agreement, we had made no information regarding a term of probation be that she commit no crimes, including infractions. And I know that a normal court probation might not have an infraction be a violation, but we felt that it was important under these circumstances. Is the court ordering that as an alternative?
Yes, on the speeding, Jericka, I've gone through your record and looked at the speeding tickets, and although there are some people that have more, you've got a lot of speeding tickets, so if you have any infractions, that'll be a violation of your court probation.
I assume those would be driving infractions or non-moving violations.
Any infraction of the law, she's on court probation, so any violation of the law that she has could be a violation of her probation.
I'm just thinking if the ISP says her window tint's too dark.
I wouldn't sanction her for that.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Olson, before we adjourn, anything else?
All right.
All right, with that, we'll be adjourned. Thank you all.
Please rise.
Your Honor, can her mother get a hug before she's escorted out?
Sorry.
No.
Love you, sweetheart.
The reason is, ma'am, it's a safety issue. I know you wouldn't do this, but we've had situations where a weapon or something, or
I
illegal
understand.
drug